What's up? We're back with another one. It's your boy 32, and today we're going to do a deep dive into the BU 4-point plan. As you guys can see here, I brought out the dry erase board, so we're about to get into the nuts and bolts of this. I've dropped the 5-part series already on YouTube and TikTok, so you can watch those videos as well. But today we're going to go through each and every last one of those steps. We're going to go through everything in detail so we can put it all together. You kind of can see how it all goes. Okay guys, so we're going to get into the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, and the why. All right, so starting with the what is this? This is a program, all right, and it's built to help you find your identity. It's built to help instill in you intentionality, all right, and it's also it's also there as a roadmap and a guide as to what you should be doing in order to take the right steps towards your dreams, right? All right, who is this for? All right, it's for really anyone who is willing and has a desire for more in their life. Anyone who is willing and desiring to be held accountable for what they say they want, right? And anyone who is ready for change. Okay, you have to be all of those things in order for this to work for you. All right, in order for you to really get everything that you need to get out of this. All right, and when can you access this program? Now. It's been available. You can find it on TikTok, you can find it on YouTube. But ultimately, it's your decision. So you have to choose when you're going to do this program. You have to choose when you're going to start making those changes. You have to choose when your identity, intention, and roadmap are a priority for you. All right, now where does this program take place? It takes place within yourself. All right, you don't show up to an office, you're not showing up to a community center, you're not showing up on Zoom or anything like that. No, this is something that you can do on your own time. This is something that you need to do within yourself. I can tell you what to look for, I can tell you what to do, but that's exactly what this program does. You have to actually do it. You have to do it. So it happens within yourself, it happens for yourself. All right, now how does it happen? Well, you follow the programs, because the program is meant to help you become more intentional about your dreams and vision. It is meant to help you to change and transition, elevate and transcend into the person that you need to become in order to live the life that you actually want to live. Let me say it again. It is meant to help you become the person that you need to become in order to live the life that you actually want to live. Okay, so you follow the program, you give it your all. Again, if you don't give it your all, you're not going to get the magnificent results. You're not going to get everything that is meant for you to have in this program. So you have to give it your all. And then we want to commit to the change. All right, there is a specific point, okay? It is point 3. All right, there's point 3 of the BU 4-point plan in which you have to start making changes. You need to commit. You can no longer choose to do things your old way. You can no longer know what you need to do and ignore it. So you have to commit to the change. All right, and then you can repeat till complete. All right, repeat till complete. Repeat till complete, meaning this program is not a one-stop shop. It's not a do it one time and it's done. No, you can see and will make great progress the first time you do it thoroughly. Okay, especially if you do it over a long period of time, right? If you stretch this program out for an entire year, yes, you'll see great strides and progress in that first year going through it for the first time. But this isn't a one and done thing. This is something that needs to be repeated until you complete the vision, the goal, the dream, until you get to that destination that you make so clear up in your mind throughout this program. Okay, so the why. Why did I create this? Honestly, it was me. Okay, it was me. I had so much potential and I wasted it being distracted. I wasted it not really having a real destination. I wasted it not knowing my why. I wasted it not knowing who I truly was, so I was trying to be everything else. So I created this program because I didn't want someone to get to that feeling that I got to sophomore year in college. I'm sitting on my bunk in between classes and I feel as though I failed. I feel as though I've made too many wrong turns. I feel as though I've passed up too many great opportunities. I feel as though I've messed up too many great opportunities. I feel as though I burned too many bridges. See, I was in this feeling of complete despair. I was truly, at a moment of regret. I was regretting a lot of my life decisions. And I realized in that moment I was living a life that I didn't truly want to live. I was living a life that was put into my head. I was living a life that was influenced by others. It was influenced by the outside world. So what I realized was I had to change. I had to change. Something had to change. Something had to give. I could not continue to feel this way. So I created this program after going through years of trying to develop myself. So I left college sophomore year and I went into the workforce. In the workforce, I was newly, I had my daughter sophomore year as well, so I'm a new father, I'm a new parent, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to, get my footing in that, right? So I go immediately into the workforce. And my identity, I say, I'm leaving behind this. This is what I was trying to be, even though this isn't what I want to be. I'm leaving behind this. And then my identity became completely just being a dad. And I didn't know who I was outside of being a dad. And so then I was like, man, I need to figure out who I am. You know what I'm saying? I need to figure out who I am. And as my daughter got older, I started realizing, like, man, how can I pull out the best in her if I haven't pulled out the best in me? So I started trying to pull out the best in me, right? I started trying to figure out, okay, well, I know I want to be a business owner. How do I go about that? So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to learn the different ins and outs of running a business. So I did Shipt, so I can own my own, not Shipt. I started off doing Uber and DoorDash, and so I can own my own schedule, right? Okay, cool. So this is what it's like to be on. You're going to have to work to turn a profit. All right, cool. I need a product now. I don't have a real product as an Uber independent contractor. You know what I'm saying? I'm just picking up people and dropping people off. So I need a product that I can actually sell. So I said, okay, cool. I got into a couple MLM things, you know what I'm saying? Trading and then Amway. Those didn't quite work out for me. So I'm like, okay, now, but I know, like, okay, if I have a product and I have a distribution model, you know what I'm saying? I can get that product out to many people, you know what I'm saying? And I can pay those people and I can, potentially change their life while growing at the same time. I can help people while growing rich. Okay, cool. I like that because I don't want to get over on people. So I started developing these things, and as I started pulling things out and I started going through, and then, I eventually went into accounts payable, went into accounts receivable, went into the warehouse to see, you know what I'm saying, how they do in the inventory side and all that good stuff. So now I'm like, okay, I know the ins and outs. So 2020 comes, I leave college in 2017, 2020 comes, and I go back to college. And I'm doing finance now, so I'm taking up these courses, and I'm learning about logistics. I'm learning about supply chain and all this stuff. So now I'm learning, you know what I'm saying? I'm getting the studying part. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's the acquiring of knowledge. Like I have to acquire knowledge. I have to keep learning. Then I realized, okay, even if I have $1 million, product. Because at one point in time I was trading. I'm like, man, if I could teach people how to trade, like we can all trade and we can make money together. I had this product, but I realized people don't necessarily buy the product all the time. Like, yeah, you get people who buy the product just because it's the product, but most people buy the product because of who you are as the salesperson. So I said, man, I need to make myself more presentable. I need to make myself more relatable. I need to get my story out there, my brand. So I'm giving you the long version of why it was my life that created this program, but literally it was everything that I went through negatively, and then how I climbed myself back out of that hole. You know what I'm saying? Back out of that feeling of depression to where I am now, and feel like I'm not just surviving, but I'm striding. You know what I'm saying? I'm striding towards a thriving life. So I literally went from surviving, barely surviving, to now striding towards thriving. This program essentially is a culmination of all the times in which I bumped my head and me paying it forward, helping out the next generation, helping out the next person, so that some of the things that they may encounter, some of the things that they may not be privy to or be aware of, they don't have to fall into those pitfalls, right? Because they're unaware, they're not privy to the hole in the wall there, or the cycle that they're currently in. That's it doesn't seem bad right now. It doesn't seem bad right now. It's innocent. It's small. It's not that big. It's not that big of a deal. But over time, as you keep doing it, it does become a big deal. You know what I'm saying? And you'll end up in a place where you regret it, and you're like, man, I wish I never. Man, I wish I hadn't. Man, I wish I could have done this differently. And I want to stop you before you get there, or I want to stop you after you've done it so many times and show you that there is a different way. You can make significant changes within yourself, even in a shorter period of time, but you have to be in a system and be dedicated to that system in order to see those results. So it was me. Right? Like I said, I'm paying this forward. And then as I realized, and as I started developing who I was, my purpose, my identity, I realized that my purpose and who I am at the core is a community leader. I'm someone who loves the kids because I see their innocence. I know that they didn't ask to be in this world. And because of that fact, I want what's best for them. And I know as adults, now that I am an adult, now that I am a parent, I know that, man, the world hits us hard. It hits us hard. We have so many things that we have to balance and juggle and deal with, both externally and internally on the mental side, right? So with that, it becomes a lot. So we can't always be perfect in every area of parenthood. So I give so much grace to parents, especially single parents, because it's even harder. It's even harder on you. But don't think having a spouse makes it, makes it peachy cream. No, it's still hard. Parenthood is still hard, right? So, and then on top of everything else that the world and life throws at us, it can be hard. So I understand how we can miss the mark as parents. I get it. I'm not making an excuse for us because there's room for development. But because we missed the mark, I also understand that there's a consequence. I also understand that when we miss the mark, we're missing the mark with our kids, and our kids are in a deficit because of it. So I want to make something where I can be a part of my community and help my community become better people. Because if all of us can understand that we have greatness within us, if all of us have a deep understanding of our identity, of who we are, of what we are made of what we have within us, and we are using that to the best of our ability and not settling into something in which our talents and gifts are dying and dormant for long and extended periods of time. So I want to bring out the best in you. All right. So the BU 4-point plan. All right. So I say BU, but BU is actually abbreviated. I haven't said that yet, so I want to make sure I establish this now that I'm in the compassionate and passionate mode. You know, me bringing out the best in you is the core. It's the core of everything that BU stands for. All right, so BU actually stands for Beyond You. Okay, and the thought and the mentality behind that was, I want to go deep within you to find the greatness. You know what I'm saying? Because like when you think about gold, they have to mine gold, right? They have to mine gold. They gotta go into the core. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get into. You gotta break up rock. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta go deep. You gotta penetrate deep in there. You know what I'm saying? In order to get to the good, so you gotta go through the hardened rock. You gotta go through the soft layers. You gotta go through the mud and the nasty stuff, and then eventually you get to the pretty, luminous, beautiful, eye-catching, attention-grabbing talents and gifts that are buried within you, because the world has piled so much on you and the world has told you to settle into this role. So Beyond You is meant to go deep within you, pull out the gifts beyond you so that you can become and wear those. You can become exactly who you were meant to be. You can become those gifts and talents, and you can wear those with pride. No longer wearing your doubts, your insecurities, and everything else. Your lack of confidence, your self-esteem issues. This is meant to pull out this is meant to go and dig past and get past some of those nasty things, some of those traumatic experiences, and bring out the greatness in you. Bring out what was meant to be in you. Bring out what was meant for you. Because right now you may be feeling lost. Right now you may be feeling in despair. Right now you may be in a depressed state. Right now you may be thinking, man, my life is going to be minuscule. My life is crap. And that's totally understandable, because I was there. I was there. It got so bad, my depression, I stopped going to classes. I probably was going to like 2-3 classes a week, and I had easily 8, 9, 10. So I'm trying to tell you, I understand where you are, but I'm telling you, you can get past it. But we first have to start with your identity. So let's get into step 1. Stop recording. All right, so now that you understand the who, the what, the where, the why, and the how, it's time to understand the format. Okay, like I said, we're doing a deep dive. Okay, so it starts with a decision. All right, so we're back on that word, decision. You have to decide that enough is enough. You have to decide that you are no longer going to be a passenger in your own life. You have to decide that you're no longer going to cut cruise control on, and you're going to steer the wheel, that you're going to take control, that you're going to be in the driver's seat, that you're going to take ownership over your life. Okay, so you have to make that decision. This is where it all starts. We can't even get on the road. Like think of this as taking a journey, right? Until we decide we're going to take a journey, there is no journey. So you have to decide to take this journey. All right, so decide, make the decision. Make the decision that today is the last day that you're going to play second fiddle in your own life. Today is the last day that someone else or some other thing is going to have control over you. All right, and that you're going to stop today wandering aimlessly throughout life. You're going to stop allowing life to happen to you. And you're going to be more intentional about it. Make that decision. And then once you make the decision, step 1 is self-assessment. Okay, so we've all taken an assessment test in school, right? To assess our knowledge in certain areas. Well, we're going to take a self-assessment. All right, and in this self-assessment, what we're doing, we are taking an inventory of who we are. All right, and this is all about finding your identity. Now, why are we starting with this? Why are we starting with identity? Because if you don't know who you are, and who you belong to, it's going to be very, very hard to finish this journey. You're going to be tossed, turned, and twisted every which way. Because there are so many things that can influence, impact you along this journey. If you don't have a solid foundation on who you are, if you're not solid and firm on your core principle values and who you are as a person, you're gonna be tempted, you're gonna be swayed, you're gonna be easily distracted, you're gonna be thrown off, and that is not the purpose of this. We're not creating and going through this program so that we can be thrown off. No, it's to become more intentional about what we want and who we are. This isn't about what someone wants you to be. This isn't about what looks good. No, this is about you, what you need, who you are. What's your actual purpose? What are you really called to do? So this stage is all about figuring out who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, your good habits, your bad habits, your passions, the things that get on your nerves, trauma. All right, this is the time to really make this list. All right, but exhaust this list. All right, this may not be something that you accomplish in one sitting. I recommend that you at least do it for a week, bare minimum a week. A week straight of just trying to figure out all of your good traits, bad traits. All right, and then also in that same time frame, we're trying to not just scratch the surface. No. We want to get to the core of who you are. So I want to know, and I want you to know, where those good traits, bad traits, good habits, bad habits, pet peeves, passions, where did they originate? I need you to start thinking and pondering over this, because there was something in your life that you may be able to remember, or maybe you just liked it all your life, but note that as well, because we need to know where these things originated from. When did I first stop liking this? When did I first become fearful of this? When did this become scary? When did I realize that I was smart and I catch on very, very quick? I'm good at math. I'm great at writing papers. I'm great at leading people. I'm great at giving advice. When did I learn these things? Because we gotta get to the origin. We gotta get deep, right? We get into the core. So we get to the origin. When did these things start? Because then we can kind of work our way backwards. Now that we know where it started, we can progress outward to where we are now. And we can say, oh wow. So over time it has grown and evolved into this. You know what I'm saying? So now we have a better understanding of where these things come from, why we are made up these ways, why we are the way that we are, right? So self-assessment is very important. We have to understand what's within us, right? If we look at this like we're going to war, like we're going to go battle for ourselves, like we're going to go conquer our dreams, we have to understand what's in us. We got to understand, what do we have? What do we have within us that's going to help us get to the destination? What do we have within us that's going to help us get to where we are trying to go? What do I already have within me that can at least get me started? I can work on what I don't have along the way, but what do I have right now within me that I can go with? And then what are those things that are holding me back? What are the things that I'm lacking, that I'm not so great at? I have a short temper, bad patience. What do I need to work on? Right? So the self-assessment is very, very key, and it's the most important step. The most important step. The decision, nothing happens without the decision. So it's self-explanatory. Like, we don't even get started without the decision. So of course this is important. But this self-assessment, if you do this the right way, you are setting yourself up for a great journey. Because you're going to be well aware of what you're dealing with. You're going to be easily assistable. Because you're going to have questions. How do I? But if I don't know everything, if you don't know everything, if there's things that you're holding back, if there's things that you won't go explore, we won't be able to have a full-on productive conversation. I won't be able to full-on help you in the way that you actually need it. You won't be able to full-on get everything that you need to do and get out of this so that you can advance and elevate. All right, so self-assessment, most important piece. The next thing is the dream and the vision. All right, now this right here is definitely close second. Like if self-assessment is 99, the dream is 98.9. You know, like it's right there. It's right there because you have to know where you're going. All right, so if the self-assessment, all right, well, this is the start of the journey. This is us figuring out everything that we have to hit the road, right? All right, so we made the decision right here. We made the decision, and then we move over to the start. All right, so this is now the beginning of our journey. So now we getting in the car. Okay, but before we take off, we need to understand that we got enough gas, we got enough food, all that good stuff. So we're taking an inventory of everything that we have and don't have, right? All right, and then from the start, we have to understand that we must have an endpoint. Okay, so before we start talking about the states we're going to pass through, before we start talking about all the different stops we're going to make, no, we need to figure out where we're going. Okay, and it's easier said than done because the easy way out is saying, okay, well, I want to be a doctor and I want to live a comfortable life. No. That's a task. That's not a vision. That's not a dream. That's just a bunch of words that mean nothing. Right? So when I say dream and vision, when we get to this stage, this second stage, when we get to this stage, this is where I am pulling on the inner child in you. Again, we're going deep to the core. So we broke past the surface. We got past the surface. We even hit some mush. You know what I'm saying? Because going through those traumatic experiences, understanding why you may feel triggered here and why you may be angry towards this type of person, like that's mush. That's mush that you got to get through. That's mud in the boots, right? So we gotta understand. We're pushing past some of it, right? We pushed past it. Now we can get to some of those things that we used to enjoy, right? So as a kid, we had this creative, wild imagination, and this is what I'm trying to pull out of you in this stage, because I need you to dream again. I need you to close your eyes and be able to see the things that people can't see. I need you to be able to understand that it's for you and it's not for them, even though they don't see it, even though they don't believe it. You do. You know how many of us have imaginary pets, imaginary friends, talk to ourselves, dream of dragons and wizards and everything else. It was outlandish to everybody else but us. They couldn't see it. They couldn't fathom it. There was no clarity behind it. There was no emotion or thought to it. But in our little heads, in our young imagination, we could see vividly the dragons flying around. We can see vividly all of the mystical and fantastical things, right? We can see all those things very clear and vivid. But it was because we took time as kids to take a thought, develop some emotion, and make that emotion something that we can see when we close and even open our eyes sometimes. We had an imagination that allowed us to be free and envisioning who we wanted to be. We all played cops and robbers. We all played doctors and all that good stuff. We were creative. We used to play house without a toy house. I don't know about y'all. We used to throw covers on some bunk beds. But our imagination. Anybody ever built a fort with pillows? Your imagination. You ain't see pillows. You saw a wall. Your imagination allows you to be free. But see, what happens is life, people, and I don't even want to just say people lightly, because it's family members, family, teachers, friends, other adults that you meet and bump into. They will pour their life on you. They will dump their experiences on you. And over time, your dreams become unachievable because somebody said that's just a dream. You need to get into the real world. Or better yet, they frame it in this kind of manner. I'm not trying to dump on your dreams, but do you have a backup? Because you will hear that as well. I'm not saying I want what's best for you, but have you thought about this? See, over the course of a decade, you hearing it, you start to realize that, man, maybe I just need to dream like they dream. Maybe I just need to see things how they see things. And you start to settle. And then all of a sudden, a 9 to 5 at somebody's office is somehow your life. It's somehow your dream. You somehow comfortable. When you used to dream big, you used to see yourself in these big positions, but because life knocked you down, because no one ever gave and equipped you with the necessities to persevere through, no one ever made it clear to you how important a dream and a vision is. So that can't nobody rob you of it. Nobody showed you how to map it out and break it down step by step. So you always know how to track it, how to measure up to it, where you are, and see your progress. So I'm trying to pull this out of you. So we really dive into our childhood. What are you really passionate about? What do you want your life to be like in 30, 40, 50, 60 years? What do you want your family lifestyle to be? When you wake up in the morning, what are you waking up in? What kind of bed? What kind of view do you have? What kind of house? What kind of car? I want you to really vividly think about this 20, 30, 40 years down the road. Because we have to be aiming towards something. We have to be driving towards something in this journey. There has to be something pushing us, or pulling us rather, along and forward. Because there are going to be times where we get tired, but we have to remember what we're fighting for. We have to remember what we're after, so that we persevere through and push through. There are going to be times in which life knocks us down, we get sick, things don't go our way, we don't get the result that we want up front the first time. But see, we're going to have to go the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time, and the fifth time if needed, because we got to understand what we're after. A lot of us lead a life feeling unfulfilled because we quit on our dreams and our visions way too soon. We quit on it before we have a real plan. We quit on it before it's really broken down. We quit on it before we really have clarity around it. We just say things like, hey, I want to do this in life. I want to drive this kind of car. I want to live in this kind of house. And that's it. We don't look at anything else. We don't dive into the details. What kind of walls? What kind of wallpaper? What paint? Is it going to be brick in there? What does your kitchen look like? What are the amenities your house is going to have? What are the bare necessities that you won't go without? What kind of life are you going to provide for your kids? What are they going to wake up to? What kind of love are they going to receive? What kind of love are they going to know? What are you going to do in life to accomplish this lifestyle? What area of business are you going to be in? Are you going to be an employer? You're going to be self-employed business owner or an investor? Which quadrant are you going to fall in? How are you going to make your living? Are you going to do it doing what someone else is passionate about because they paid you enough? Or are you going to be doing what you're passionate about and fulfilled through that? These are things that we're doing when we're dreaming. Are you taking vacations? If so, is it a thing of what it's always been? You saving up for vacations the last 3 months before you take the vacation and barely got enough to go have enough fun? You only do vacations on the weekend once a year? What is it? Are you taking vacations on a random Tuesday? Kissing a flight at 1 p.m. and coming back next Tuesday just because? It's not spring break. It's just the middle of the year. Just because. It's not summer break. It's just because. Are you exposing your family to new environments, to new lifestyles, to elevate them so they can push the ceiling beyond what you're doing? What are you dreaming? What are you envisioning for you and your family? This is what we're really diving into, okay? And then next, we got to plan it out. All right, so we got a starting point. We got an ending point. We got to fill in everything in between, right? So this is where we start. We start planning everything out. So we go from a starting point, which is the self-assessment, understanding what we have within us to get us through to this journey, right? And then we get to an ending point. Where are we shooting for? What's the destination? And then once we got the destination, very, very clear, vivid, and understanding what it is that we're after, and it evokes an emotion and passion out of us even when we talk about it, then we're able to move on to everything else. Now, how do we plan from here? A lot of people would assume we go from starting point and then what's the next step, 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 until you get to the ending point. But see, I've realized in my own development, finding out what's the next best step is always hard because there's so many things that you need to do, right? So think about this. You're lost, right? You're lost. You've made a decision to make a change. You said enough is enough. I'm no longer going to live like this. You take a self-assessment. You know all of your gifts, but you also know all of your weaknesses, all of your downfalls, all of your bad habits. And you know that you need to change some of these things, or if not all of them, in order to live the life that you actually want to live. You know what I'm saying? In order to become the person that you need to become to live the life that you want to live, right? So we know that we have to make these changes. But see, a lot of us, we want to just go out and tackle everything at one time. We want to change everything at one time. We want to improve every area that we can all at once. That's not the most effective, and I found it out. So again, I made this program based on me, based on my mistakes, my own developmental mistakes. The things that I had to make a U-turn and go a different route because I didn't make the right decision up front. I was trying to do a lot of things at one time and I sucked at all of them. I was barely able to make I made little to no progress in a lot of areas because I was trying to tackle a lot of things at once. So in this stage, we're going to work backwards. Because if we work backwards, it's going to be easier for us to narrow down what we need to do next and what we need to work on next so that we can get to that stage. So we get to the stage that's beyond this point, right? So we're going to start with the end in mind. So I'm going to use me as an example, right? And you guys, you have to do your own, you have to go through this process yourself to understand what your end in mind is. I want to be 75 years old on my own land, 100 plus acres, playing with my grandkids, sharing stories about building the empire that I built. right? So when I say start with the end in mind, that's where we're starting at the destination. So this is where, again, we're doing more practice of making that vision clearer. Because now that we know what the dream and the vision is, every moment from that point on, we have to be working and practicing how to make that more clear. How to evoke emotion out of ourselves so that we feel a certain way when we talk about it. So we gain this passion towards it, so that it becomes something that's always on our mind, and it becomes obsessive, so that we can continue to obsessively work towards it. And it's not just about the work. It's not, you know what I'm saying? This isn't something like, oh, I'm going to be working and being obsessed, so I'm not going to be able, no. Remember, this is to bring the best out of you. So you're going to be obsessively working to become the best version of yourself, because the best version of yourself is somebody who's going to achieve that. But you have to do the work so that you can see it and believe it. So with that being said, so we start with the end in mind. So I start there, right? And I can go 5 or I can go 10 years. You know what I'm saying? You can go either one, half a decade or full decade. But what's the step before that? Before I'm just enjoying life, not working, just out there with the grandkids, having story with the kids, coaching them and leading them to be the best version of them, so they can, raise up my grandbabies to be the best version of themselves. You know what I'm saying? What's the step before that? Well, it's probably at 65, I still don't want to be working, so it's still retirement, but I'm probably in that entering stage. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably just now in retirement. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably just now on, you know what I'm saying, in them first few years of retirement. So it's signing them paperwork. It's making sure that all of my final paperwork is in order. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand that anything can happen at that point in time. So I want to make sure that all of my paperwork is in place. You know what I'm saying? I want to update all of my final paperwork. I want to make sure that all of my assets are accounted for and they're going to go to the respective parties and all that stuff, right? I need to be traveling at that point. Like, if it's early retirement, like at that point, like I want to like a whole year just traveling. Like, okay, cool. What's the step before that? Well, I need to be being safe with my investments. That at that point in time, 55 is not the time to be trying to risk it all, right? So I'm being conservative. I'm still growing them. You know what I'm saying? I'm still, adding a few things, but I'm building for my kids and for my grandkids. So most of my bigger investments, you know what I'm saying, are for them. You know what I'm saying? How do I get to that point? Okay, well, the point before that, or the step before that is, all right, so I'm in my 45s at this point in time. All right, so I'm working still, but I have a big business. I have big businesses. Well, I have a big business, and I have several different business ventures that are doing well. And so with that big business, I don't necessarily have to be there. I'm more of a training figure. I'm a training head. I'm a mentor figure. So I'm there to train and help people develop themselves, but I'm pretty much hands off and collective passive checks, right? At that point in time. What's the step before that? You know what I'm saying? So you guys get the hint. You're going to work all the way back to your current age. So if you're older, you know what I'm saying, if you're in your 50s and you decided to do this journey, then do it by every 5 years, every 3 years. What do you want to accomplish? And be realistic about it. You know what I'm saying? And this is, when I say be realistic, see, a lot of people, when they hear be realistic about their dreams, you hear don't dream big. No, I say dream big, but be realistic based on the accountability level and commitment level that you're willing to give. Because in order to live that life that I want to live, that I envision, it's going to require a lot of discipline. It's going to require sacrifice. It's going to be times, well, no. It's going to be periods in which I can't just go splurging on things. It's going to be periods in which I can't hang out with friends and go out to the clubs and things of that nature. I may not be able to enjoy all the simple pleasures, you know what I'm saying, that they enjoy now, so that I can live and enjoy them later. Are you willing to, you know what I'm saying? Are you willing to give that up in order to gain that later on? Are you willing to go through the pain now and receive the pleasure later? Or do you want the pleasure up front so you can deal with the pain later? Because there's no avoiding. You're going to deal with it either way. You're going to deal with pain and you're going to deal with pleasure in life. The key is, in which order do you want to deal with it? I would rather take my pain up front, my learning lumps up front, bumping my head up front, and then build that life, as hard as it may be to build it up front, so that I can live comfortably, happily, and pleasurably on the back end when I can't necessarily do it. Versus I can YOLO it out now in my 20s and 30s and have nothing in my 40s and be trying to rebuild it and recoup it, and then in my 50s be so tired and worn out because my body is now downgrading that I can't necessarily do it the way I want to do it. So now I'm settling. I don't want that. So now we have to understand, we got to be realistic here. All right, so what do you want? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice in order to get the dream? All right, so once we break down the stops, once we go with from the end and work all the way back to the start. Work our way all the way back to the start. Now, we have to move on to the next step, which is change. All right, so you've made a decision. You mapped out everything. You understand who you are, what you're taking on this journey. You understand where your destination is. You understand the different steps now. All right. And you even know like what your very next step is. So based on where you are right now and the very next step, boom, you know what that is because you worked your way backwards. There's no thought about it. You don't even have to think about it. Right. So now of your weaknesses and your strengths, right? But I want to focus on the weaknesses here because this is where we start adjusting. This is where we start strengthening ourselves. This is where we start developing and becoming better, right? So we're going to focus on our weaknesses, but we're not going to focus on all of them because that's too much. It's overwhelming. We're going to pick 1 to 2, maybe a third, maybe, but for the most part, 1 to 2, 1 and 2 weaknesses. How are we going to choose those weaknesses? Based on where you need to go next. Which one of your weaknesses, if you change and improve them, it's going to move you furthest. It's going to be more beneficial and productive to your journey. Okay, so for me, I knew that leadership, that's one of my core values. You know what I'm saying? When I did my self-assessment, leadership, people. I'm a people person. I love helping people. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm a natural leader in that aspect, right? So that was one of my core values. But I realized that my next step was to put myself out there. I had to develop myself as a leader, become more committed. You know what I'm saying? So I knew all of these things. I was a procrastinator. I put off things. I was impatient. I didn't operate at my full potential because I knew that I was good. So I never fully gave my greatness because I knew that my good was good enough. And sometimes my good was great in other people's eyes. So I never really applied myself fully, right? So because of that, I said, all right, those things are cool, but I think of all of my weaknesses, my confidence. Because if I move differently, if I see myself differently, I'll be more effective. You know what I'm saying? If when I walk in a room with men, I don't start comparing myself based on my insecurities, I'll be more effective. And that was my thought process. But see, the kicker was when I worked on my confidence, what I realized was me being more confident made me more relatable. Me being more confident made my message more impactful. Me being more confident allowed me to step to people that I wouldn't necessarily step to, which means that I can impact people that I wouldn't have impacted before. Me being more confident allowed me to understand that what I went through didn't break me. All right, it didn't bind me. It didn't hold me down. It didn't deter me. It taught me. You know what I'm saying? What I realized was my confidence, it gave me me building my confidence gave me the ability to talk about my failures in front of people so that people can understand that it is okay to fail. It is okay to bump your head. It is okay to have a season in which you're not progressing. It's okay to have a season in which you feel like you went backwards. It's okay to have a season in which you don't know who you are. But I also went through all of that because and I improved my confidence to be able to confidently tell you that it doesn't have to stay this. It doesn't have to stay that way. It doesn't have to remain that way. It doesn't have to continue to be dark and desolate for you. You can make the change. So me being confident, it added so much, and then it helped me move into the next step. Because my confidence ultimately led me to realize that I am somebody worthy, although I'm still flawed, although I still have my mistakes, although I still mess up, although I'm not perfect, I am somebody need to listen to. Because I do have something of value. Because at first I was like, man, how can I mentor and teach kids? Like, yeah, I want to give back, I want to help, but how can I do that if I'm flawed? How can I do that if I look in the mirror and I don't like the person I look at? How can I be somebody else's role model and I wouldn't even be my own role model if I had to pick? I was dealing with some self-esteem and some value issues. So when I got confidence, when I built up my confidence within myself and started to learn to love the good and the bad. See, the self-assessment ain't to big you up, and it ain't to just bog you down. No, it's so that you can learn to love who you are. It's to learn to love who you are and what you have within. Because when you're comfortable in your own skin, you can do some magnificent things. You can do some incredible things. But you first have to be comfortable in your own skin. You have to be comfortable with what you have within you, your gifts and your own talents. So we start making these changes. Right? After confidence, I started working on my principles. Because I wanted to be confident in what I stood for. But I had to understand what I stood for. I had to understand what was going to be the things that were non-negotiable for me. What were going to be the things that I stood by? What were going to be the things that remained true no matter who, where, or how I was living life. Whether I'm broke, rich, sick, poor, married, divorced, it didn't matter. I was going to stand by these principles. I was going to remain this person no matter who you were in this world. You could not say that Andre wasn't this. When I encountered Andre, he wasn't this. Because I was going to embody that. So once I got my confidence up, I said, man, all right, what are my principles? And then what the principles became my pillars. What are the things in which I'm always going to keep near and dear to my heart as far as forever development? I'm never going to stop developing in these areas. I'm never going, every decision that I make has to embody, you know what I'm saying, at least one or two of these pillars. And then from there, I started saying, okay, cool, of these other weaknesses, procrastination, all right, how do I work on this? All right, cool. And so this adjustment period, this change period, step 3. You are going to just pick 1 or 2, like I said, 1 or 2. Focus on 1 or 2. But those 1 or 2 should be weaknesses that impact you. If your vision is to be a world-renowned author, and you have a weakness of math, that probably shouldn't be the first thing that you want to do. Or if you're in my case and you want to help kids, you want to build a community center, and you want to have, acres, you know what I'm saying? Science isn't necessarily, that's one of my weaknesses. I didn't necessarily get science, but science isn't necessarily top of the list. Now when I start, you know what I'm saying, getting the gardens and really start getting into gardening and bigging up my expertise and leveling up and all that stuff, yeah, I'm gonna get into, you know what I'm saying, the science behind soil and plant biology and all that stuff, but that's down the road. That's not something I need right now, based on the steps that I needed right now, based on me starting with the end and working my way back to the start. You know what I'm saying? So I had all these different notches, all these different, you know what I'm saying, things that I had to do coming from the end. Well, this point right here, this very first point from start, that's where I want to focus on. So which one of my weaknesses is going to help me conquer that one? And then work on it. And then for the next step, if I still got that same weakness I need to work on, keep working on it. Your advancement and progression may have been enough to get you to the next stage, but it may not have been enough to turn that weakness into a strength. So you may need to keep working on it. That's why I said we only doing 1 to 2. Because at some point you will have 3. But we're stopping at 3. So you may start with 1. Maybe it was confidence. The next one was procrastination. The next one was identity or self-esteem. Right? So you may be working on confidence when you start your self-esteem. You may still be working on confidence, and that's fine. But until you complete one of the 3, you don't pick up another one. So maxing out at 3, but we want to start with really just 1. Start with 1, work on that, and then once you get to the next stage and the next step, then start working on another one, and then start working on another one. This is why this is a repeat to complete type of program, because you're not going to knock out all of your weaknesses the first time through. It's not designed that way. It's just not designed that way. All right. So once we start making adjustments, we'll start seeing the progression. Now your progression may be slow. It may be fast. It may start out slow and then pick up. It may start out slow, pick up, then stop. My point is, it's going to vary person to person. Your journey is unique to you, so don't compare it to anyone else. All right. And at this stage, this is where you have to dedicate, because in order to repeat to complete, it's going to take dedication. All right. You have to be dedicated to this process. You have to be dedicated to your life. You have to be dedicated to what you say you want to accomplish. Let me say it again. You have to be dedicated to the person that you need to become in order to live the life that you need to live. So dedication. That's the last stop in this journey before we reach the destination. And once we reach the destination, that's X marks the spot. X marks the spot. We reach the destination. Now it's time to make sure that as we're on this journey, we help as many people begin their journey so that they can come to fulfillment. So come to a place. So now that you know the overall flow, you know how this thing is going to play out. You know the different avenues, different steps and processes that we're going to take. Now let's go into each individual process and break them down further, okay? Because again, this is a deeper dive. All right, so I want to show you what it's going to look like so that this is your reference. And then any other questions that you may have, you can either reach out via personal message or in the comments if you feel comfortable. Now, with that being said, let's dive into it. So step 1, self-assessing, right? So with self-assessing, again, we are getting out our strengths. We are listing out our weaknesses, all right? Our habits, good and bad, passions, dislikes, hobbies, pet peeves, and trauma. We're going to continuously come back to the analogy of a road trip, okay? Because this is a journey. This is a road trip. You're literally building your road map throughout this entire process so that you can take your road trip. All right. So with that being said, this phase I like to think of as gathering everything that you need. Right. So in a road trip, once you know what I'm saying, typically you know where you're going, but we're not there yet. But before you hit the road, rather, So let's start that. So before you hit the road, there are things that you need to know. You need to know what kind of car you're driving, how many people are coming, who's bringing what, who's contributing to it, how are things going to be paid, right? You're building out a list, right? And that list shows you what you have and what you don't have, what you may need to stop and grab, what you need to stop and grab before you even take the trip, right? So that pre-planning is what we're doing now. We're doing the groundwork so that we can embark upon this journey and be properly equipped to sustain ourselves on this journey. So list out your strengths. And again, this is to be exhaustive. Okay, we need to exhaust this list out. We need to list everything that we can think of. And again, this isn't something that we should do in one sitting, in one day, in 1 hour. No, we should stretch this out for a minimum of 7 days, guys. 7 days. Every day, spending at least 5 to 10 minutes just listing out your strengths, listing out your weaknesses, so that we can have an exhaustive list that we can look at and really use as a resource and a guide for the next steps ahead. So listing out your strengths, listing out your weaknesses. Again, I know like when we get to this point, like a lot of people like, man, I don't want to, you know what I'm saying, be negative. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying, drum myself down and bog myself down thinking about all the things that I lack. But this is necessary, guys. We're not always going to have all the weaknesses that you see on your list. You're not always going to be this person that you are. So it's okay. Write this down because this is monumental. We need to document this. This is your document process because we need something that we can measure. You know what I'm saying? We need something we can measure against time. So as time progresses, we need to see, okay, how has this weakness improved, or is it even a weakness anymore? That way you can start to feel confident about yourself. And as you start to collect those small wins and that build and compound over time, man, you're going to realize I'm a whole new person. I'm a whole new person. So it's important that we list out all of our strengths, all of our weaknesses. Think about your habits. You know, what do you do when you first wake up in the morning? What are you doing when you go to bed at night? What are you doing throughout the day? What do you do every day consistently? What is a habit for you? Good and bad. List them all out because we need to understand what we're doing routinely, either subconsciously, consciously, unknowingly, or knowingly. We need to know, right? So list out your habits. Then when it comes over here, these are different categories, but they're kind of the miscellaneous groups, right? Your passions. What are you passionate about? I knew in high school, I remember writing a paper for theology, and we were talking about, you know, if we had what job would you choose and why? And I chose accounting because it would bring me money and it would be able to fund me giving back to young boys. At that point in time, I wanted to be a coach, right? But my passion has always been around kids. You know what I'm saying? And building them up because I feel like, wow, they have so much potential. And if we just take the time to invest in them, they can be so much greater than what we're pumping out generation after generation for the last generations, right? For the last few decades, right? All right. So with that being said, so your passions, what are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? What really gets you going? What can you do all day long without a blink of an eye? Right? What do you dislike? You know what I'm saying? What is the opposite? What is something that just really turns you off? Something that really boils your skin? Something that really makes you get out of character? Like, what do you just don't like it? Every time you see it, it does something to you. It gives you an icky feeling. Right? And what are your hobbies? Like, not necessarily your passions. Like, you know, you do them often, but it's not necessarily like you're like extra passionate about it. You just like doing it. And what are your pet peeves? Little small things that can set you off. Little small things that can be a distraction. Little small things that can get you out of your character, out of the person that you want to be, and out of the mindset that you want to be in. And the last one is trauma. Now, this is a big one. This is where we start moving from the surface to beneath the surface. But we have to address the fact that we all have some type of trauma. Right? So we're just listing surface level. What is that trauma? Right? And then as we go deeper and go below the surface, I want us to get into the origins. All right. So when can I first point to when did I become athletic? When can I first point to being talented in math? When can I first point to being a quick learner? When can I first point to being a leader? You know what I'm saying? When was the first time, my first furthest memory? Well, I can remember, you know what I'm saying, being the one who's brave enough to do this at 6. So that's where my confidence came from. I remember being the one on the team that everybody looked up to when I was younger. So that's where my leadership came from. Like, go back as far as you can go. As far as your brain allows you to remember. That's why you need to do it over a couple of days, because as you think about it, the first time your mind will begin to kind of go into the archives and pull it further, and it may come forward in a day or 2 or 3 or maybe later on in a week. This is why we must do it over a course of time. So think about the origins. Where did these things come from? Then go to each category. So not just your strengths, but your weaknesses. When did you first learn that you procrastinated? When did it first start? When I was gaming and my mom told me to clean my room, and I played a couple more games. I played for a few more minutes instead of just doing what she told me to. And it turned into homework, and it turned into classwork and everything else. So when you know what I'm saying, how far back can you go? But get to the origin. Habits. When did you first start doing this? Well, my mama made me wake up every morning and brush my teeth, so I still wake up every morning, brush my teeth, wash my face. Made me say my prayers as a youngin', so I say my prayers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, habits. What was the origins? All right, that's the reason that we're doing this. We're going to get to it in just a second, right? Passions. When did you first become passionate about helping kids? Well, I watched my dad be a coach all my life. I seen the impact that he had, and I wanted to have that same impact in a similar fashion, which is why I wanted to be a coach at first. Now I want to have a community center. I just don't want it to be centered around sports, because my brand isn't sports. My brand is you're greater than anything, and you can be anything and everything that you put your mind to. So, with that being said, when did you first start disliking things? When did you first start your hobbies, pet peeves? And then how far back can you trace the trauma? What happened? What was the specific event that started this fear? What was the specific event that started your trust issues? What was the specific event that made you insecure? What was the specific event that made you start questioning the beauty on the inside? So really start getting to the origin of these things. You know what I'm saying? Really start digging deep to find where did it start. Because now that we know where it began, now that we know the beginning, we need to figure out, how has that festered? How has that compound? How has that evolved in us? Because at first it started out as a fear of this, and now I'm scared of a lot of things. I failed one time at this, and now I'm scared to try at that. My fear of failure has now stopped me from being great. It's now stopped me from pursuing things that I truly want to pursue, but I'm scared because of these things that happen in my life that have compounded and have grown. But it really stemmed from this one moment. It really came from this one moment. And then what happened was life continued to throw situations at me, and it compounded my fear of that thing to make that fear real. To make that insecurity real. To make that self-esteem issue real. To make the fact that I don't feel worthy because I didn't have this parent in my life. Because this happened to me at an early age. I don't see my own value. And so I made a lot of mistakes. And if I was to put some of my weaknesses and match them to my trauma, I can actually, once I go and see the origins of it, I can actually pair them together. Some of my weaknesses evolved out of my trauma. Some of my weaknesses perpetuated my trauma. So now we're getting to the accountability and the addressing side. This is when it gets tough, guys, because you have to think about some of those hard moments. Trust me, I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys, okay? I was exposed to sex very, very early. Was taken advantage of. And I understand the emotions, the guilt. I understand the second identity you build, your public and private life, how you portray yourself publicly, but how you feel privately. I understand that mentality, that mindset. So trust me, I get it. It's hard to go through some of those memories, but what I'm saying is hang in there. Stay tough, be strong. Understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Understand that there is better on the other side. This is just an exercise to make you stronger. These are reps that you have to get in to get stronger, to be able to withstand this journey, right? So yes, we're going to do this. It is going to be hard, but please, please, please do not give up on yourself. Do not give up on your dreams. This is just a start, all right? We're making sure we have everything and we understand everything that we do and don't have before we hit this road, okay? So what has it become? How has that festered? That one moment of confidence, how has that festered today? Are you too confident? Are you humble? Have you forgotten, everything that you are, and you're lacking confidence? Have you gone backwards? In my case, I went backwards. I was confident very early, and I realized over time it dwindled because of some of my weaknesses, because of some of my traumas. So we're connecting the dots, we're putting the puzzle pieces together, we're understanding everything that we have and don't have. Okay? And then the last thing that we're gonna do, once we exhausted the list, once we dove into the origins and we connected the dots and realized that, okay, this weakness is connected to this trauma. This trauma started here and it has festered into this, and it has become this, and this has produced other traumas and other weaknesses and other events and all this. So not only we have this map of who we are and what has happened and transpired in our life. How are they, and when I say they, I mean how are your strengths? How are your weaknesses? How are your habits, your passions, dislikes, hobbies, pet peeves, and trauma? How are they impacting and affecting your life today? Now that we have the puzzle piece, because it's no longer a speculation. We've drawn together and painted this picture to where we have to go off of facts now. Based on my strengths, all of the strengths that I have, these are the ones that I am using today that are impacting and affecting me. These are the ones that I don't use. They're dormant. I have them, but I don't use them. Could they be beneficial? I don't know at this current point in time, but I know that I have them and I'm not using them. Of these weaknesses, these are the ones that are impacting me the most. These are the ones that are affecting me the most. They're hindering me the most. These other weaknesses, I mean, they here and there, but they're minuscule. They're minuscule. I can put in a little work and get those out the way. My habits, these are the habits that I do every day, like faithfully. No ifs, ands, or buts. These are some habits that I backslide into. These are some habits that when I'm distracted, I get into. These are some habits when I'm emotional, I do. When I'm emotional, I always do this. When I get mad, I always, like, those are habits. Right? Of my passions, I'm very passionate about this, that, and the third. I am currently pursuing it actively in none of them. I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about giving back and working in the community. I'm passionate about real estate, right? But if I look and get to the end of this process, get to the end of step one, and I realize I'm not doing anything to fulfill those passions, to experience those passions, then I understand. I have an understanding of where I am now. I need to make a change in order to make sure that my passions are in my life, right? Dislikes, hobbies, pet peeves. How are your dislikes affecting your relationships? How are your dislikes affecting who you are, who you meet, the environments you're around? Are you too judgmental? Do you just dislike everything? These are things that we have to think about. These are things that we have to consider, right? Your hobbies. Are some of your hobbies good? Are they good hobbies? Are they impacting you and affecting you in a good way, in a negative way? Your pet peeves, the things that get on your nerves, those little small things. Are they trivial? Are they stopping you from meeting the person that you need to meet? Are they stopping you from being in the rooms that you need to be in because you don't like how certain people act? Is that stopping you from your success? Is it hindering you? Is it hurting? Is it hindering you? Is it helping you? Your traumas. How are your traumas playing a part in your life right now? Do you constantly find yourself in a cycle based on your traumas? Because of my trust issues, and that's just how I am. You find yourself saying some of these things. Your trauma may be impacting you. And that's something that we need to know and acknowledge, because if we can acknowledge it, if we can acknowledge the issues and the problems, then we can address it. And if we can address it, we can bring a solution. If we can bring a solution, we can apply it. And if we can apply it, we can actually make change. Okay? We want to grow in this. So this is step one. All right, so you're gonna recap. Just to give you a quick recap. You're gonna first write out all of your strengths. You're gonna do all of your weaknesses, all of your habits, good and bad. Now I want you to write out all your passions, dislikes, hobbies, pet peeves, and trauma. Then I want you to begin thinking about, when did those things start? What is the earliest memory that you have of your strength, or of that strength, of that weakness, of that habit, of that passion, of that dislike, hobby, pet peeves, and so on. And I want you to do this for 7 days. Take at least 10 minutes a day and try and exhaust the list. Think of everything that you can. And then at the end of those 7 days, I want you to begin thinking about how they have festered and how they are impacting your life today. I need you to acknowledge your situation based on what you wrote down. And this is where some people may think to shortcut the process and not put their all into it, but it's only going to be to your detriment. Because knowing the full picture allows you to understand better. allows you to be able to make the traces and the connections that you need to make, and then it allows you to then make the changes necessary. But if you don't understand and know the issue, you can't change it, you can't fix it. If you don't know that there's a problem, then you're never going to solve it. You're never going to fix it. So this is what this is doing. This is painting a picture of who you are. The good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. This is your identity. It may not be the Mona Lisa that you want today, but that's the point of the next step. All right, so the vision. The vision is, like I said, it's the second most important thing in this process. It's the second most important step. It is what powers you, okay? It is where you get that extra fuel, okay? It's the destination. It's the thing that you are gravitating towards, all right? So we already got the starting place, all right? We know exactly where we are, right? We figured out where we are. But again, this is a road trip. A road trip without a destination is you know, like some people, they like, okay, I just want to go. I just want to go wherever wherever the road takes me. And that's fine when you're just on a spontaneous road trip. When we're talking about our life journey, we don't want to be spontaneously. We don't just want to wander aimlessly, right? We don't just want to move through life without a purpose, without anything pulling us toward it. You know what I'm saying? Without us pushing towards something, right? We need to have a purpose. We need to have something that we are setting out to achieve and accomplish, right? So with that being said, the vision helps us get there. So the vision, it closes the loop, because when we just have a starting place, there's infinite places that we can go, right? There's infinite places that we can go. So we can end up in places that we don't need. We can end up messing up our future. We can end up deterring and taking detours that are going to set us back years from accomplishing what we truly want. Because when you don't have a destination, you'll end up at parties you don't need to be in, and clubs that you don't need to be in situations you don't need to be in relationships you don't need to be in, because you don't have a purpose. You don't have anything that you are shooting for, so you will accept and be in everything. So we need a vision. We need a vision for our life. We need to know what it is that we're going towards. But see, sometimes, again, it's hard. It's hard to see 30, 40, 50 years down the road, because we're operating on what we can see, our sight. We see our current situation. We see who we currently are. We see our past that we've lived through. And we say we can't attain certain things. We say we're not worthy of certain things. Well, this is where I need you to throw that thought out, erase that, put it in the garbage, and it's time to start a clean slate. It's time to have some vision. All right. So vision requires a little faith. It requires a little bit of belief. All right. And what are we believing in? What are we having faith in? Faith that we can get through this. Faith that we can become. Faith that we can do the work to become who we need to be to live how we want to live. To be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. Right. So we have to have a little vision. All right. So to create the dream, we got to have a little vision. Right. So how do I begin creating this vision? I need to tap into my inner child. All right. We talked about that earlier. Right. So with the inner child, right, go back to when you used to blow out the birthday candles. Right. And when you close your eyes and you picture whatever it was, your mom was going to get you a bite, whatever the case may be, you pictured it and you can almost see it. You can almost touch it. You are almost in that dream. You are almost in that wish, living it out. When you wrote your list for Christmas, you could see yourself opening up your gift on Christmas Day. You could feel the excitement and enjoyment behind it, which is why you were always giddy when it came around that season. Because you can dream and you envisioned the happiness of opening up your toys. You envisioned the happiness of having everything that you wanted. The new game, the new clothes, the new shoes, the new Barbie doll set, whatever the case may be, dollhouse, chessboard, science kit, basketball rim, soccer goal, fishing pole, whatever the case may be. You envision opening up and it brought you a certain feeling. Right? So we got to tap back into that, because I need you to be able to close your eyes and see it. All right? We have to take this thing from and for my younger folks, for my younger audience who are younger than me, I can make a younger joke. Ha ha ha. But for my younger audience, you may not remember the big box screen TVs. that set with the knobs, right? I'm young enough or old enough to know what that was. I was on the back end of those being discontinued. You know what I'm saying? So I got a couple of years, you know what I'm saying, probably like up to like 8. You know what I'm saying? I remember seeing those big old bulky brown wooden TVs. They had the knob in it, and when you ain't getting no reception, it was just staticky. Right? So we gotta take our dream from that picture to 4K and beyond. Right? So we have to practice. How do we get from fuzzy to not knowing and not being able to see anything to 4K and beyond? It's going to be practice. How do we practice? All right. So there's a simple process. All right. So we're going to first think about it. I want you to think about your life consistently for several days, a minimum of 7 days, Again, you can do each process for months at a time. You can stretch this out for an entire year, right? But at least do it for 7 days. Think about the type of life you actually want to live. Think about who you want to be. The type of person that you want to be, but as well, the type of person that you want to be seen as. What kind of reputation do you want to have? Who are you spiritually? Who are you financially? Who are you mentally? Who are you physically? What is your identity? Right? And then, what do you want to be doing? What is it in your life that you want to accomplish? What is it in your life that you want to be known for? What is your legacy? What are you setting out to do? What are you passing down? What impact are you going to have? So what is it? What is it that we're trying to get to? Right? And then where? Where are you going to be? Where would you like to be? Financially, where would you like to be? Mentally, where would you like to be? Physically, where would you like to be? Emotionally, where would you like to be? Spiritually, where would you like to be? Occupationally, where would you like to be? Are you still starting your career? Are you ending your career? At what ages? Like where? Where in life are you at each specific age? Think about it. In your 20s, where are you going to be? In your 30s, where do you want to be? In your 40s, where do you want to be? In your 50s, and so on and so forth. Where do you want to be? We have to have something that we can measure up to. Because we need landmarks. We need accolades that we can achieve. We need goals that we can hit, right? When? That kind of goes into the where, but when? When do you plan on accomplishing these things? When do you plan on having a family? When do you plan on being a business owner? When do you plan on being a homeowner? When do you plan on achieving this great success? When do you plan on retiring? When do you plan on passing down the estate, the empire? When do you plan on settling back and just traveling the world and no longer dealing with business? When are you going to go all in? And the most important of this is why. What is your why? Why do you want to do what you want to do? Why do you want to accomplish these things? Why is it important to you? Why? Why are you doing this? What is your why? Your why needs to be so big that when life throws the hurricane, when life throws the earthquake, when life throws the tsunami, when life throws the most devastating thing at you, you won't quit because your why is going to keep you going. Why is it important that you even become who you want to become? That you get what you want to get? That you end up where you want to end up? And that you do it when you say you want to do it? Why is that important? Why? Why? And only you can answer that. Only you can develop a why strong enough to keep you going in those tough times. But you have to start thinking about your why. You have to start thinking about your life and how much better it's going to be if you become who you need to become. If you get what you need to get. If you are where you say you want to be. And if you're doing it when you say you're going to do it. Think about the joy. Think about the lifestyle. Think about the lifestyle that you're able to provide. Not only just live. Think about the influence. Think about the impact. Right? Think about the effect that you're going to have on others who hear your story. So the why is very important. The why is very, very important. And then how? How are you going to get to who you need to be? How are you going to get what you want? How are you going to get where you need to get to when you need to be there? How? And that is a very simple answer. You did that step. And step 3 is coming up. So before we dig into the how, well, the major part of the how, the minor part of how is dedication. If I stay dedicated to this, it will happen. If I follow the steps necessary, if I build a plan, which is the major part, then I will be able to do all of these things. I will be able to achieve all these things. I will be able to obtain all of these things. Right? So the thought. Do this continuously. And eventually, you're going to have a feeling. Right? You ever thought about something and got mad? Thought about something and got hungry? Thought about something and got sad? Thought about something and got happy? Your thought has the power to produce an emotion, a feeling, if that thought is strong enough. Because have you ever also had a thought and then lost that thought, forgot about what you were thinking about just that fast? Because it didn't really evoke enough emotion in you to be memorable. It didn't evoke enough feeling in you for anything else to happen. So it's just a thought. So we have to understand that a thought is great, but we have to think about it enough to where it becomes powerful enough to become an emotion. Right? Because we need to put some feeling behind this thought. Because when a thought has feeling behind it, what ends up happening is you tend to want to act. You tend to want to act. So when you can feel the happiness, like I said, you want to think about like your why should be the first time you start really feeling something. When you think about your why, like, man, why do I want to accomplish this? And think about all the people you can help. Think about all the good that can come from it. Having a lot of money is not a bad thing. It's just that bad people have a lot of money. If a lot of good people had a lot of money, how much good could be done in the world? So we just need good people to have a lot of money. So you should accomplish your dreams because you'll be able to do great things with it. You'll be able to impact a community, a neighborhood. You'll be able to save a life or two. You'll be able to change somebody and change their path that they're currently walking on. Just because you went through a process. Just because you committed to your dreams and your vision. And you decided that this is what I'm going to get out of this. I'm not going to stop until I do. I'm going to continue adjusting and changing until I do. Right? So your how. Not your how, I'm sorry. Your feeling. Once you start feeling something towards the thought of your future, the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to build that feeling up. Right? So we have to make the thought powerful enough to get the feeling. But then we have to make the feeling powerful enough to make action happen. Have you ever thought about something, felt something, but didn't take action? You had a thought that made you mad, but nothing came of it. It was what it was. It wasn't that deep. It wasn't that deep. You was tripping. Right? Am I the only person that ever been in those moments? No, I don't think so. If we've been honest, I think everybody's been in the moments. You had a thought. You had a feeling that came after that thought because the thought in that moment was powerful, but the feeling wasn't strong enough to compel you to act on it. Somebody cut you off and you had a thought and you felt mad, but you ain't act on it. You let it be. Sometimes though, we get cut off. We had a thought, a feeling, and then it's followed up by some obscenities and maybe a middle finger, right? Or a honk on a horn, right? That feeling in that moment was powerful enough to make you act. So we have to practice honing into that feeling. All right? Now, when you harp on something, you're honing into it, right? So like negative people who harp on negative things, they're honing into the negativity, right? So they're honing into that feeling of negativity and they're continuously acting on that feeling. So they don't even realize like their thoughts, their negative thoughts is conjuring up a negative feeling and it's turning into a negative action. Right? So we need to create positive thoughts, powerful enough to evoke a positive feeling that will be positive enough to make a positive action. Right? So we need to harp on those feelings. Harp on the fact that it's going to feel good. Harp on that feeling that you get, that tingling that you get, that the raising of the hairs. Harp on that smile. that you have on your face when you sit back and you imagine what it's going to be like when you walk in your house and it's everything you imagine, down to the carpet, the decorations, the decor, the feng shui of it all, right? The dining room, the living room, the bedroom, the garage, the backyard, like it's everything you want. And then you wake up and you do your dream job and you enjoy it. Like, imagine that feeling. You check your bank account and you're not worried about whether or not it's enough money. You worried about, has it gone up yet? Because you know you got money in there. You just want to see if your money made money. You check your phone and you got deposits coming in and you ain't did nothing but enjoy the day all day. You woke up and relaxed for an entire day and didn't do anything. Imagine that feeling. Imagine knowing that your credit is gravy. It's great. It's above par. It's exceptional. You can go swipe anywhere. You got the black card. You got every color card you want. The bank want to give you a loan. They asking you which house you want. No pre-qualification. You good. You able to go get a car right off the lot. Like, imagine your life in that position. You able to go enjoy your passions and hobbies without worrying about, do I got enough time after work? Imagine being in that position. Your health is great because you put yourself in a position to be able to eat healthy. So you don't have 100 pills when you get older. Imagine what that's going to feel like. Being able to enjoy long periods of time with your grandkids. Sit and hone in that feeling. Because eventually it's going to make you act. Eventually you're going to get up and say, man, I need to do something about this. Man, I need to go make this happen. And when you start acting, that's when you get to the next level. That's when you get to the next level. When you're ready to act, that's when you get to the next level. Man, I need to go do something about this. I need to make a change. I need to make something happen. Okay, cool. But hold up. Slow your roll. We got one more step before we just can, so we got a couple more steps actually. Before we can get to just moving it and making stuff happen. So let's do an overview. All right. So step 2 is finding out the vision. All right. We're getting to the destination. All right. We're getting to the destination. We don't got nothing in between the starting point and destination right now, but we got a destination. We know what we're shooting for. Right. And how do we develop this? We get rid of sight. We get rid of everything that we can currently see in ourselves, everything that we've been through. We're getting rid of all of them thrown in the trash. And we're thinking about what we can be. We're thinking about what we want to accomplish. We're thinking about what we want to become. Right. We're tapping into that inner child. We're becoming a child again with our dreams and our creativity and our imagination. And we're allowing it to take us to a place where we can create a vision for ourselves of who we want to be, what we want to accomplish, when we want to accomplish it, where we want to end up in life, how we're going to get there, and our why, the main driving factor of it all. Right? So we want to get to this place. And then we want to make sure that we're practicing this. We want to make sure that we're honing this in and we're getting better over time, because starting out is going to be fuzzy. It's going to be fuzzy starting out. It's gonna look like that picture where you just can't get a signal. It's just staticky, right? But eventually, over time, through honing in, through constant practice, through constantly going over, through constantly sitting down and meditating on it, and sitting down with yourself and thinking about it and writing it down, you're going to be able to have a clear 4K and beyond picture, right? You're going to be able to take it from unexplainable to completely attainable. Right? And you just follow these steps. Now, what's the next step? We got to fill in the blank. So how do we get from the starting point to the destination? That's step 3. All right. So stop recording. The next step 3. This is how we connect our dots. So earlier, as I stated, when we were going over the overall process, this is where we start with the end in mind. All right. How I like to phrase this is reverse engineering. All right. So if we were to live life in reverse, how would it look? Meaning, now that you have done some time, you've practiced and developed your inner child and reconnected with your dreaming and imaginative abilities, now it's time to imagine what it's going to be like in reverse. All right. So at the destination, you wake up, your daily routine, all of these different things, like you're retired, all that good stuff. Like, this is the destination. You're retired. You've accomplished everything. Now it's time to go back, like I said, 5 to 10 years, and what is it that you were doing before? What was the step before then? What were you doing and accomplishing at that point in time? And then go back another 5 to 10 years and keep doing that evaluation every 5 to 10 years until you're back at your present age, right? So reverse engineering is what I like to call this step, right? So we're starting with the end in mind. We're going from Z to A, okay? Now in this, like, just a kind of a quick example. I didn't I didn't flesh it out like I want you to, but I am going to tell you what you need to think about and consider as you flesh out yours, right? But a quick example. So for me and my community centers, right? So the end goal is I have community centers nationwide. My program is global, and it's successful. I'm putting kids in college, all of that good stuff, right? The step before that, before I can go national, I have to go regional, right? So I have to take over. I have to have a region, community centers in a region that are regionally concentrated, so that I can make that next step and expand to the entire nation, right? So I have to do what I want to do on a national level, on a regional level first, right? All right, but what's before regional? Well, I gotta be state. You know what I'm saying? Before I can get multiple states, I need one state. All right, so obviously the state that I'm currently living in, Missouri, is going to be the first state that I have my community center in. Right? Okay, and then with the community center, all right, cool. What's the step before that? Well, the county. I need to take over the county of St. Louis. I need to make sure that I can establish a few community centers in the county of St. Louis. All right, great, wonderful. All right, and then what's the step before that? Well, the city of St. Louis. All right, okay, cool. All right, I'm starting to pick up a pattern here. Now, what's the step before that? Well, the municipalities. All right, so we got different municipalities. You got like you got the city of St. Louis, but even then you got the different neighborhoods, which we'll get into. That's the step before this municipality. But you have your different municipalities, and then we have our different zones. And then when you get to the counties and stuff, you have like Belnor, Bellwoods, you got Brentwood, you got Kirkwood, you got Webster Groves. So you have all these different municipalities, right? Then neighborhoods. You have your different neighborhoods, your different projects, your different, areas of town, right? You got your Central West End, you got, your Soulard, your Tower Grove, you got your Fairground Park, you got these different areas, right? These different neighborhoods. Before that would be a block, an entire block, at least 10 families. Before that will be a group of kids, 3 to 7. And before that, it'll be an individual. Just one person I start with that I mentor. And before that, I have to work on myself. I have to become a person who can mentor an individual, who can mentor a group, who can mentor a block, who can mentor a neighborhood, who can mentor a municipality, a city, a country, a county, a state, a region, a nation. I have to become that person so self. Which is why we self-assess, to understand who we are, so we can start making that change. But see, this is the order of the project. So, this is the order of the process. So you start with the end in mind. You start with what you're going to accomplish in life, and you start working backwards all the way to yourself, all the way to where you currently are, and you just highlight each step every 5 to 10 years. What should you be accomplishing in that 5 to 10 years? What would you have accomplished in that 5 to 10 year span? Right? So what targets are you going to be hitting? These are some of the things that are going to help you flesh out this list a little bit more, because community center obviously isn't the only thing I want to accomplish, right? It's just one facet of it. Remember, I talked about acres. I talked about having a family compound, or maybe I didn't, but I'm giving you guys that information now. But the acres, I know I talked about, right? You know what I'm saying? Having my family, sharing that experience with my family and stuff like that. Well, I didn't give you the detail of, I want to have a family compound. Like, yeah, they're on the land, but it's because they live on the land as well. We have our own houses. We have our own neighborhood, in a sense, where our kids can grow up and we can be all together. We can build something that sustains itself. We can have generational legacies and generational wealth all in one place. Build something great together as a family, as a village, right? So that's the other side of it, right? But there's steps to that too, right? But what I want you to do is I want you to put it all together, right? You can break it down into categories. So you have one column that says community centers. You have another column that says family compound. You have another column that says business owner. You have another column that says, whatever the case may be, right? So what do you want to be? And then think about it. Think about everything that's going to take to get to that final level, and break it all the way down to your current self. So it can be one gigantic column with a bunch of stuff. You just got a bunch of stuff going on. You're going to be, a world-renowned artist who travel the world and retire, All right, cool. How do you get each and every last one of those things that you're going to accomplish? What is the steps before? What is the steps before that? What is the steps before that? All the way down to your current age. All right. So targets to hit. Right. What resources are you going to need? All right. So along this journey, along this road trip, and the accomplishing and attaining of the dream, you're going to have to pick up certain resources. Again, you don't have everything when we started this drive. We had weaknesses, and there were things that we're going to need along the way, right? So we have to understand that there are going to be resources that we need. What resources are we going to need? Who are we going to need? What kind of people are we going to need? What kind of network? What kind of connections are we going to need? What kind of intangibles and tangibles are we going to need to get, right? What can we trade? What are we going to be able to barter with, right? So what resources are we going to need? to be able to make this dream happen over time, and at each and every and at each stage, right? The next one is trainings, right? So what trainings are you going to have to go through, right? Because we all need a coach, we all need a mentor, we all need somebody that's going to get us to the next level, right? So what trainings, what mentors, what coaching are you going to undergo in order to get to that stage? Who are you going to go pay for to sit up under? Who do you want to run into, and who do you want to follow, right? What licenses, if any, are required for your dream to become true? If you're going to be this super top, attorney, you have to have your attorney's license. You want to be a doctor, there's certain certifications and things that you have to get, right? You want to be in finance, there's certain licenses. If you're going to be at the upper echelon of things, and have access to the greater incomes, like, you're going to have licenses. You're going to have to get certain qualifications that you're going to need, right? So degrees that falls into the licenses, these are just things that you're going to need along the way. But I want you to think about them, so I individually listen to them. So what kind of degrees are you going to need, if any? Network, that goes back to the resources, right? So these are resources. This is a resource that you can't use, but your network is very important, because it's not always about what you know, it's who you know. Sometimes knowing someone who does it better is better and more effective than you trying to do it on your own and messing it up, and having someone to come back and do the work over after you've already spent money and time. Sometimes it's better to delegate. So having a network of diverse people, having a network of like-minded people who are trying to accomplish something, who are achieving and striving for greatness in life, that is a great thing to have. So you want to begin building your network if you haven't already, right? Because we want to use that to our advantage. We're not becoming leeches by any means, but we want to make sure that we are cultivating great relationships where we can go and get the help and the resources that we need from those people in our times of need. Qualifications, again, licenses, degrees. What do you need to do? What do you need to have done in order to get to that destination spot? How many times do you think you have needed to fail? How many businesses do you think you need to run? How many years of experience do you think you need? Like, what are the qualifications that are going to get you in the door? And what is your resume? What have you done? And I'm not talking about, just that sheet of paper that you turn into your job, but what have you done? What are the things that you can be proud of? What are the things that you're going to need to do in order to get to that place? You want to have your own brokerage, so you have to get your real estate license first. You have to be an agent, right? And then from an agent, you can get your own brokerage. But see, we first have to understand we gotta put that agent on our resume first. It's something that we have to do. So what are the things that are going to need to go on the resume in order for us to get to where we need to get to and where we're wanting to go to, right? So reverse engineering, this is how we connect the dots. Now, some people may be saying, well, why don't we start with self and work our way up? Well, because when we're looking at our strengths and our weaknesses on the next one, yeah, we can definitely do that, but it's going to be hard to tackle what's next. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what that next step is because there's so much that we can do. So this helps us to logically narrow down our guideline, what kind of track we should be on, so that we can accomplish in a more effective way what we need to accomplish. Because otherwise, from self, me wanting a community centers, my next thing could be just go open up a community center. But now that I've logically reverse engineered it, I realized that going to go open up a community center is skipping individuals, groups, and blocks. I'm skipping the resume qualifications. I'm skipping the training. I'm skipping the building and gathering of my resources. I'm skipping targets. I need to hit that. I need to impact an individual and know that this works. I need to have some type of proof before I just go to a neighborhood and say, trust me, right? And then from that individual, it could have been a one-off. So I need a group. And then also for myself, I need to learn how to train and mentor in a group. Yes, I may be effective with one person, but can I be effective with a group? Can I be effective with a block full of people? Can I be effective with a neighborhood, a municipality, a nation? Can I get my point across to different people, to a diverse group of people, to a diverse pool of people? So I don't go from where I am to where I want to go, to where I want to end up. I go from where I want to end up backwards to where I am, because I feel like it gives me a more linear, a more purposeful guide that I don't have to necessarily question because it's logical. I need to do this before this. This has to come right before that. And I need to get as detailed as possible. I need to get as detailed as possible with each step. Alright, so this is reverse coming on step 3. Alright, last step coming on. Okay, so we've made it to the final step, step 4. All right. If you made it this far, if you've done the work up to this point, you are now about to enter into the phase where you start to see the progress, the phase where you start to see the changes. Okay. So hang in there. I know we've been doing a lot of upfront work, right? And you're starting to ask yourself, man, we haven't even hit the road yet. We haven't even begun the journey yet. Well, this is the last step that we need to do and take care of in order to hit the journey confidently and make sure that we have everything that we need, right? And that we're off to a great start. Okay. So the last step is the adjustments. It's the change. Okay. So with everything that we have done, right, we've created a starting point. Okay. We found our ending point. We found the steps in between. Right. So now it's time to put all of the pieces together. This is where the puzzle comes together. Okay. So when we put the pieces together, what we found, what we'll see is when we found our starting point, we found our identity. And in our identity, we found our strengths. We found our weaknesses. We found our habits, good and bad. We found everything within us, right? Okay, great. So now that we know our starting point, we can use this starting point to know what our next move is. What is our next move? Oh, we figured that out already because we did the reverse engineering. We know the spaces in between our destination and our starting point, right? So we know what this next step is and we know what we're working with. We know what our strengths are. We know what our weaknesses are. Okay, so now we have to look at ourselves and say, how do I use what I have and know to get to the next step? To transition and elevate to the next phase? How do I get to the next season of thriving and achieving my dreams and goals? So of my strengths, which one of my strengths, of all of my strengths that I have, which one of these are going to help me the most accomplishing this next goal? Okay, so for me, right now, in the immediate short run, my current goal, my current achievement that I'm setting out for is my next promotion, right? It's a divisional leader promotion. And it's on my way up to achieving a regional vice president promotion, right? So division promotion. Of my weaknesses, what am I going to have to shore up in order to get closer to achieving that goal? Of my strengths, what do I have within me already that I can lean on in this season of accomplishing that goal? So this is the mindset. This is what we're going to begin doing in this step. Right? But see, you have a lot of weaknesses. You have a lot of strengths. You have habits. You have those passions. Of all of those, we're not just worried about all of them. Okay? We're looking at the most impactful. Which one is going to move the needle the most? Right? Which one is going to be beneficial, the most beneficial? We're focusing on those strengths. We're focusing on those weaknesses. We're focusing on those habits, good and bad. Because that's what's going to get the results. So for me, I have to be more present. I have to be more animate. I have to be more vocal. I have to be more duplicable in order to get this next promotion. I have to be more efficient and running and closing out business and maintaining quality business and mentoring new recruits so that they can become productive agents. So in this next season, in this immediate run, this is what I need. So I'm going to focus on those things. I'm going to focus on those. I'm not going to focus on learning how to let me see. Let me grab a weakness that's just not. I'm not gonna focus on learning how to break down the formula to figure out whether or not it's a deal that I should pursue in real estate. That's not the next step. That's not the immediate next step. Is that a step? Absolutely. Will that benefit me in the future? Absolutely. Is that a weakness that I have? Absolutely. So all of those things are true, but right now in this moment, I have to focus on the next step. I have to focus on what's going to be most impactful. So learning about real estate right now isn't going to be most impactful to what I'm trying to accomplish in my business. So I have to choose the things, my strengths. I have to choose the weaknesses. I have to choose the habits that are going to be most impactful. Should I change them? Should I improve them? So me improving my presence, my leadership ability, my duplicability, me improving that in the short term right now is going to move the needle much more than learning about real estate as it applies to me obtaining that promotion. So with that being said, guys, we're asking ourselves, how do I use what I have and what I know about myself, what I have within myself and what I know about myself? How do I use that to get me to the next level? What is most impactful? What is going to be most impactful? What changes are going to be most impactful? Should I start changing and improving my weaknesses? Should I start changing and improving upon my habits? Improving upon my dislikes, my pet peeves, all those things that we name, right? Should I start improving on those things? Which one is going to have the biggest impact, the most impact on what I'm trying to achieve in this next step? All right, and then once you decide on just 1 or 2, okay, we're not trying to tackle the entire list, as I said earlier. We're not trying to do everything in one night. We're not trying to do everything in one swoop. No, just 1 to 2. Rank them from highest to least. Rank them in order. Which one is the highest priority? If I change this today, I know for sure I'm most likely going to accomplish this mission. I know for sure I'm gonna be much closer to this next step than I will with anything else. Now I may need a combination of another thing. I may need another thing to get me completely to that next step, but this is going to move me the furthest. And then you can choose if you want to go past having one to focus on. You can choose a second one, but that second one needs to be the one that moves you the furthest out of everything else that's remaining. But that's it, just 2. Starting out, just 2. Really, I just want you to focus on one. But if you can handle 2, if you find going through this process 2 is not that bad, and you're saying that you can, go ahead. That's fine. But 1 and 2, that's the limit. Starting out, and then from there, I just need you to be accountable. I need you to be accountable. You know that this is your weakness. You have to be accountable to the change that needs to happen. You have to be accountable to the actions that need to take place. You have to be accountable to the new habits that need to be formed. You have to be accountable to the new person that has to be created, formed, and sustained. You got to be accountable in this process, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you don't change, things will stay the same. And we cannot continue to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. What do I mean by that? I mean, we have become complacent in situations that are uncomfortable. It is not comfortable living in a survival state. It is not comfortable feeling lost. It is not comfortable just settling. But we're accepting and settling and portraying it in this delusional state as comfort. Oh, I'm comfortable. I'm good. I'm cool. I'm chilling. Life is good. We have to move out of those states. You have to shift. But it starts with accountability. You have to be accountable. Take accountability of your life. Choose to be the owner of your life. Choose to take an account for your life. Right? And then be committed. Be committed to the change. Don't just change until the program is over. Don't just change until you get to the end. Don't just change until it's no longer convenient for you. Commit to the change. Commit to who you're becoming. Commit to the goal, the dream, the vision, the future you, the feeling that you get when you think about it. Commit to it, because it's the only way that things remain changed. Otherwise, life is going to happen and you're going to revert back to your old habits. So commit to the new you. Commit to the new purpose. Commit to the new identity. And then just be willing to continue to adjust. Life is all about adjustments. Everything successful has to adjust. From nature to sports to business to relationships. Life is about adjustments. It's not always going to be in the same conditions. It's not always going to be under the same circumstances. It's not always going to look the same. It's not always going to talk the same. It's not always going to sound the same. It's not always going to intimidate the same. It's going to be different. But what cannot be different is your willingness to show up. What cannot be different is your willingness to commit, your willingness to be accountable, your willingness to see this thing through. Because the days will change, but your willingness cannot. The seasons will change, but your willingness cannot. The ups and downs, the ebbs and flows will come and go, but your willingness cannot. You have to be willing to complete this. You have to be willing to see this thing through. You have to be willing to accept the changes that are going to allow you to become the person that you need to become to live the life that you want to live. All right? So, let's do a quick recap. The adjustment and change stage. It's all about putting the pieces together. It's all about understanding that the prep work that we've done for the last 3 steps were so that we can get to this point of having a know-how, a complete understanding, a complete guide that shows us what we should be doing at each and every step, what we should be accomplishing, and then helping us to target the weaknesses that we have. Right? So now that we understand this, we understand how our strengths and our weaknesses and our habits are going to be leveraged. Now we're going to use it to our advantage, because we looked at our weaknesses as a weakness, but now it's going to become an advantage because we know that it's a weakness. Because we have spotted it, we have addressed it, now we can address it. We've acknowledged the fact that it's a weakness, now we can address it. So it's no longer a weakness now, because we planning on changing it. We planning on using that very thing that held us back to propel us forward. So now we're shifting the mindset, right? So we're using what we have already. You're pulling out talents and gifts that you already have, and you're moving it forward. And then the things that you don't have, you're acquiring. You're picking up those resources along the way. You're becoming who you need to become. Now the progress and the shift is happening, right? And so this is technically the last step, but it's not. Because again, this isn't a one-stop shop. This isn't something that you just do once. You do this entire process over and over and over and over and then over and over until you complete the mission. You repeat until complete. Repeat till complete. Right? So when I say repeat till complete, I don't just mean this last step. I mean the entire progress. Because you're not going to be the same person 5-10 years from now. Your identity is not going to be the same because you've been working on your weaknesses. So your weaknesses are going to end up on your strength side. But you're still working on your traumas. You're still working on healing. You're still working on becoming the best version of you. So you're going to still have weaknesses. And you might acquire new weaknesses. Because you're going to be doing better and bigger things. You're going to be in bigger environments. So your responsibility is going to go up. You're going to have to learn new things. This is a forever educating process. You're going to continue to forever educate yourself. You're going to always be in training, always getting new certificate, always getting new diplomas, degrees, whatever the case may be, qualifications added to your resume. All of these steps coincide and they're meant to be repeated. They're meant to become a cycle. This program is meant to become your habit for achievement and development, for achieving the goal and developing yourself into the person that you need to become to live the life that you want to live. So the last step, unspoken, is to repeat the process. Go through it for a year. Go through it for a month. Go through it for a couple of months. Go through it for a decade. But keep repeating it. However long you decide to do it. Starting out, go 7 days. Do 7 days for step one, self-assessing. 7 days for figuring out the vision. 7 days for understanding reverse engineering, for doing your reverse engineering. 7 days for making a change. All right? So that's 4 weeks. That's a month. And then when you repeat it, do it for 3 months this time. Do it for 3 months. So 21 days for step 1, 21 days for step 2, 21 days for step 3, 21 days for step 4. And then stretch it out for an entire year. 3 months for step 1, 3 months for step 2, 3 months for step 4, 3 months for step 1, 3 months for step 2, 3 months for step 3, 3 months for step 4. No matter what intervals you choose, at least you're choosing, as long as you're choosing a minimum of 7 days. But you can stretch this out as long as you want. But the point is for the process to be repeated so that your progression can continue and so that you can continue to see the progression throughout the process. So this is the deep dive into the BU 4-point plan. I hope that you are going to make a decision sooner than later to decide to take your life into your own hands, to decide to become more intentional about your dreams, your goals, and your vision, to decide to go ahead and develop the roadmap and be more strategic and more intentional about where you're going to be spending your time, where you're going to be spending your thoughts, where you're going to be spending your feelings, where you're going to be spending your actions. So it's up to you to make the decision. And once you make the decision, I can't wait to see what you bring beyond you. The greatness within. Because greatness is within you. And you're able to bring it beyond you at any point in time. You just have to make a decision. 3, 2. It's your boy. I'm out. Wish y'all the best.